Okay. I didn't start recording because we were having the technical difficulty.
Because
Okay.
you can go back and paste, right?
I know
Yes. Yes. Yes.
That was some good stuff I put out
No, that
there.
was a very,
Yes,
very,
it was.
very good stuff. Yeah.
I was wondering why y'all would just give Crystal to give all her information out.
I'll repeat it. Oh,
Okay,
Y'all,
Andrew,
you should
I
see
think
my white piece of paper where it's located. That's crazy.
I'm telling you. So, Crystal,
Wow.
this is where the magic happens right here. I'll take everything that we're doing and drop it in here and get to editing. So
all right.
that's my task for after we get done.
Oh, okay.
That's yeah. that white piece of paper.
White
There
piece
it
of paper,
is.
do it every time. I
And
like
it's just hanging on too.
it. So it is blocking some of that light then that was coming
Mhm.
in. Wow. Wow.
Yeah, you're good to go.
That
No.
white piece of paper. I'm trying to tell you. I like it. Okay. Andrew, we wanted you to introduce Crystal. And then, we'll kind of jump in. We got 10 minutes, for, let me see, we got 9 questions. So three questions every
Well,
segment.
yeah, let's do a 3-question segment. Yeah, we're trying to get 3 questions in every 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2.
okay.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, that'd be good. Everybody's looking good.
Yeah.
That's good. Everybody's looking real good. I like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can move around, right, Andrew? You're not, Oh.
Yep, with my white piece of paper, I can do all things.
See, I can do backflips now.
Right. There we go. Okay, I like it. I do. Let's see here. Got my phone.
Okay, so I got the timer rolling.
Okay.
Um,
What's the football player that had to take a break? Wasn't the Falcons player who stepped away from football for a little bit because of mental health? Just he was mentally just challenged. He couldn't deal with it. Riddle, I think Riddle something.
Calvin Ridley.
Yeah.
Ridley.
Yeah.
Yes.
I want to say he stepped away. Mental health, mental issues. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He just need to get into a better space.
And even Simone Biles, who
Yeah. Right. So
made a choice to protect her own mental health during the Olympics.
Yep. It's real. It's very real. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna have a great session tonight. I know, and I think with this we can be as candid as we want to be because it's us. I think the more open we are, the better it's going to be for those listening. So hey, let's make it happen. We thank the Most High. We thank the Most High too for blessing us to be able to pull this together as fast as we pulled it together. We just ask that the recording goes according to plan and that we get all the information that the Most High wants us to cover and that it reaches the right people, reaches the people that need to hear it and is effective, so we thank him for that.
Amen.
So,
okay. All right. So welcome to the Kingdom Mandate Podcast. We're your host pastors. I am Derek Turner.
I'm Pastor Reggie Davis.
And I am Minister Andrea Cummings. And today we are going to have our special guest by the name of Mrs. Crystal Singleton, who is joining us with a powerful, powerful story and testimony. So we are going to be interviewing her and just talk about her family life, which is going to include the background of her husband. So we're going to have an interesting podcast today. So I hope you all enjoy what we have coming forth.
I
So
like
Miss
it. I like it.
Crystal.
Welcome, Crystal.
Thank you.
Welcome,
Thank
welcome.
you. Thank you so much.
And so Crystal, I guess we're just gonna jump right into what our podcast is going to be about this evening. And what the podcast is going to be about this evening is mainly talking about your husband and the diagnosis that you guys got for him in 2008. So I just want to let you take the floor and tell us about that diagnosis and what it was.
Yes, my husband was diagnosed with dementia in 2008. Dementia is a non-cure illness. They have no cure for that. It affects usually 2 or more functions of the brain. It it causes memory loss and impairment or judgment. And usually the 2 that it affects. My husband have what you call boxers dementia, which is like the frontal lobe. It affects the frontal lobe. My husband was a professional boxer in the early 80s. And so he was a professional there. And so they contributed his dementia to the boxing. But in 2006, he had a real bad car wreck. He hit his head, was one of the injuries that he had. And that was like the last blow. He started realizing that he was losing memory. I didn't notice it. You know, he would ask me things a couple of times over, but it never triggered anything in my mind. But in 2008, Dr. LaBruce, we were seeing him in Charleston, South Carolina. And he told me, he said, something is wrong with your husband. He told me that in March of 2008. And I said, nothing is wrong with my husband. My husband goes to work. He was a teacher, the Ladies Allen Middle School. And, you know, he was a behavior management specialist, a licensed social worker, worked in the school system. Nothing's wrong with my husband. He works with kids, and he was like, and I'm like, he's teaching kids. He says, I don't know what he's teaching because something is wrong. He comes to my office and I don't want him to come back no more by himself because he don't remember anything I tell him. And so that was when Caleb was born January. He was telling me this in March. So I really went to the restroom and I started having panic attack because immediately I thought my husband's gonna die. You know, I didn't know what to think was wrong. And of course we came back to Beaufort. I contacted my husband's primary doctor and I said, you know, Dr. LaBruce that we see is saying something's wrong with my husband. So of course she scheduled a CAT scan. My husband went to the place by himself because I was still working full time. And he walked in, looked at the machine and walked out. He never took the test. And when I realized, when the doctor contacted me to tell me he never took the test, I met up with his siblings and I asked them to help me get him to the CAT scan, to get a CAT scan. And so that's what they did. And when it came back, it showed that he was having atrophy of the brain. That means his brain was shrinking.
Okay. So now let me ask you this then. You mentioned that in 2006 he had a bad car accident, right?
Yes.
Now, at what point, when he had the accident up till 2008, because that's when he was actually diagnosed, right?
Yes.
Now, when did this happen as far as you taking him or him going to the doctor himself and he walked away? Was that in 2008 or was that 2007?
That was in 2008. My husband, up until 2008, my husband hadn't seen a doctor in 15 years. My
Okay.
husband was a vegetarian.
Okay.
And when I married him, he was a vegan for 16 years. So
Okay.
he didn't necessarily believe in doctors. My husband traveled the world, been to Russia, Africa multiple times. He never took the shots and stuff. He just didn't believe in that.
Sure.
And so all of this kind of came to a head in 2008. And so I started pursuing doctors and taking him to getting psyche valves and taking him to get tested and all these things. Once they told me that, to just, my husband is a college graduate, and he is a licensed social worker.
Okay.
But when I took him to be tested, he was tested on a 7th grade level. That's how much brain function he lost.
Wow.
Now, I wanted to
in 2008.
Wow.
ask you about something that you said. You said that they attributed his dementia to his profession. Can you just let us know again what the profession was?
My husband was a professional boxer. His first manager was Joe Frazier. Most people know him in Philadelphia. He trained Holyfield in the first fight with Mike Tyson. My husband was a boxer. He was a 17-0 profession fighter before he got a detached retina, and he came home in the late 80s, and he opened up the gym, continued to teach boxing because that was his passion. He loved that along with teaching. So in the evening, he taught kids and trained them. So he bought a gym, opened it up, and continued that until 2008. He just didn't even remember the boxing too much. Some days he would go, and I would ask him, why you don't, because he was faithful. He would go to the gym every day, whether kids showed up or not. And I said, why are you not going to the gym? He said, well, because Caleb was born, our son was born. He wanted to spend more time, but that really wasn't so. What it is, he didn't necessarily remember to go.
Oh, wow.
But he told me, so I didn't catch on until 2013. Because even though we were going to doctors, because of the Privacy Act, he never wanted me to go in the office with him. So when he went in, and one of the neurologist's assistant met with him, and she had read the CAT scan and all of that, but he never told me. And I didn't think to ask. I mean, I got a little baby.
Sure.
If you went into the office by yourself, you came out, you can take care of yourself. You're a grown man. I didn't think no more about it until 2013. So you're talking about, 5 years later, when I went to the neurologist and I with him and said, hey, and he was like, well, my PA diagnosed him in 2008. And I'm like, but I never got the information, because he never wanted me. They would always ask him, do you want your wife here? And he would say no. So I had to leave what I was going to do,
Right. So from 2008 to 2013, he was declining daily or however, but he was declining. And so
every day, because he didn't have no treatment. They have
no medicine, nothing.
They have medicine they can give you to slow it up, but he remember, he was a man who never took medicine, never wanted to be treated. So
what point did you notice something that was in him that said, okay, I need to go to the doctor with my husband?
Well, I went to the doctor with him after Dr. Labuse and all of that, and I would go to the doctor with him, but I never was able to go into the treatment room.
In the treatment room. Okay.
Yes. And
So
so
you did
when
see
the
some signs that he was exhibiting some type of behavior that you knew that was not normal.
Well, what happened is when Dr. LaBruce told me that something was wrong, you know, remember I went into this panic saying my husband's gonna die. So I went on this pursuit to find a cure. And it wasn't, and it was, for me, it wasn't until 2015 that I came to a place where I said, okay, I accepted that there was no cure for him. Because, you know, we went to Vanderbilt. We went and lived in Kentucky for 2 months so he could be treated at Vanderbilt, which is one of the #1 hospitals. And so we, you know, in my, you know, in conversations with my family, because every year we would travel to Kentucky, and, you know, my husband displayed schizophrenic, he displayed, you know, just mental illness, which dementia and Alzheimer is a mental illness because it affects the brain, you know, and so I got him a specialist in Vanderbilt, and it's like, and finally, after coming back to South Carolina and traveling back to Vanderbilt, which is 10-hour, 11-hour drive just for his treatment. And the doctor there, the second doctor, not the first doctor, not Dr. Baladon, but the second doctor, she says, there's no need for you to come all the way here because there's no, she just kind of said, it's no treatment. And I finally at that point accept, okay, if you're going to be cured, it's going to have to be God because there's no cure for what you have.
Right.
So that's why I say that it's a process for the loved one and the caregiver, because you may, it's like denial.
Right.
Okay, acceptance.
Right.
Okay, let's settle in. This is what I like.
Right. This is what we're dealing with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
well,
So
listen.
and there's so many other components into that. It's not just, you know, denial, acceptance. This is where we are. I went through different stages of, you know, getting to the place I am today.
Sure. Well, listen, we really appreciate the fact that you have come on to share this story with us because it's deeply personal. I mean, we're talking about, you know, your husband. And how long have you all been married?
15 years.
15 years. And so that's, you know, definitely a deeply personal experience here. We've got to go to break. But when we come back, what I want to do is because we talked about kind of what the early warning signs were. And we kind of want to dig a little bit deeper into, you know, what a person should be looking for in terms of early warnings, and then also talk about maybe the progression from 2008 until now. And so when we come back from break, we kind of want to hop into that. We're going to take a break very quickly. This is the Kingdom Mandate Podcast. I'm Pastor Derek Turner.
I'm Pastor Reggie Davis.
And I'm Minister Andrea Cummings.
We're here with our guest, Crystal Singleton. We're so glad to have you. We will be right back after this word from our sponsor.
Thank you.
All right.
Let me tell you something. That was dynamite. You hear me?
Yes, yes.
That was good information. I mean,
Yes.
now, Crystal, I don't know, you know, you was holding back. You wanted us to record earlier, but look, you gave us some gems and some nuggets and diamonds with this one here.
Good.
So yeah.
Good.
That's really good. I like that. Yep. I like that a lot.
Cool. That one went about 13 minutes, but
Okay.
not a problem at all.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
I like it.
Not a problem at all. All right. So when we lead back in, Andrea, actually, you can lead back in if you like, and you gotta know where in the questions you want to pick up at.
Yeah. One question I want to throw at you too, Crystal, when we come back in, Andrea, I don't know if we can fit it. If you can fit it, if not, don't worry about it. How did your church that you attend, you know, then if it's the same church, how did they respond? You know, that's a question I kind of wanted. You know, did they provide any type of, you know, anything? Like, what did you get from your church? You know, because I think it's important.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's hit that.
Are you say before we get into that?
Yeah.
She's shaking her head.
Yeah.
No support. So
Okay.
do we want to get into that?
Not when we come right. That's what I'm saying. Wherever we need to put that, and I'm saying that because, of course, Kingdom Mandate Ministries, we kind of we need to be able to highlight the ball is being dropped in church, if you will.
Gotcha. Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, how we need to put it in there.
Okay.
If
Well, yeah.
yeah,
We'll
whatever.
add it.
I'm cool.
Well, yeah, we'll find a place
All
for
right.
it. Okay. Cool. Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
And before we get started, just to let you know, it's no ding on anybody or any organization or any church. People can't give away something they don't have,
Right.
You go. I
Mhm.
need you to
and
say that.
so
I
there
like
was
that.
a lady in the church that was taking care of her sister who had dementia.
Mhm.
And so I called her a couple of times. She was one of the elderly ladies. Both of them ladies are passed away because her sister was a short, skinny lady, but she was combatant too. So she
Mhm.
used to have to chain her to the chair. They were going to fight every
Mhm.
night.
Man.
And so, and she said, and she said this to me. She said, Sister Crystal, she says, no one knows what we go through.
Mhm.
And she was like in her 70s taking
Wow.
care of her sister, who was
Okay.
also, you know, was the youngest, her baby sister, but she was the oldest, but she was taking care of her sister. And so she was like, she said, no one knows what we're going through.
What you
And
dealing
just like with mental health,
with? Mhm.
the church may be not
They're not
trained for that.
Not-
You see
Right.
what I'm saying?
Right.
So
Mhm.
you can't hold people accountable for something they don't possess.
That's right.
If you don't
Right.
possess it or you haven't experienced it, you probably can't help nobody get delivered or have hope in it.
What can you do? Right.
You
Right.
know, you can give them the word of God, you can pray for them, but are you up in the middle of the night? I've woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning and my front door is wide open and I don't know where my husband is.
Oh
Mhm.
wow. Wow. Okay.
So
You
we're
But
know,
even
can talk about
for the church to be able to, maybe if they don't have the in-house resources,
Sure.
to be able to recommend or to be able to at least point in the right direction.
hmm
Something that's just a little bit more than we're
yeah.
gonna pray for you.
Well, and also too, one of the experience I had that that bothered another lady that was deaf in the church. She told her daughter came to me. She said, you know what? It really bothers my mother that they ignore your husband,
Mhm.
because of his condition. You
Right.
know, my husband, it's like they go, there's this time in the church where you get up and greet everybody, but they may
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily greet him.
Wow.
Okay.
But my husband was funny now. He come into church and the music playing, he come into church dancing. you know, he come into church dancing. It was
praise.
gonna be live every
Right.
Sunday he came.
Ready.
And then when it come time to pay your tithes and offering, they play music and go around. Oh, he danced and hold up the line. So they love to see that,
There
but
you go.
but
Okay.
sometimes people don't miss you until you gone,
Until you gone.
you
Sure.
know.
Sure.
Yeah,
Sure.
so
Okay.
yeah, they don't miss you till you gone,
There you go.
so
Right.
they don't understand,
Oh, right.
until you're gone,
I got you.
and so
I
when
got
my husband couldn't go anymore, they started talking about how he would be dancing with the music,
you.
because
Right.
music with the brain did
Stimulate.
something for dementia and Alzheimer patients. It
Wow.
does something for them, playing music.
Mhm.
Okay.
You
Okay.
know, animals do something for them. Like he loved our poodle, so it's
Right.
just different things to that.
Okay.
Hmm. All right.
Like it.
And we can take that and use that right there.
Yeah.
That
Right.
conversation.
There you
We
go.
said we were gonna come back to it. It's already there.
There it is.
Yeah,
There you go.
That's
All
that's
right.
the
it's
beauty. That's the
recorded.
beauty of that's the
Yeah.
beauty of having a recording going.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Mhm.
Well, Angie, I'm gonna give you the floor, and yeah, we can come on back in, and we got another 10-minute segment.
Okay.
All right, and we are back. All
Yes.
right,
Yes.
Yes.
We are going to start again. We're back from the break, and we are still with Mrs. Crystal Singleton. And again, I am Minister Andrea Cummings.
Pastor Derek Turner.
I'm Pastor Reggie Davis.
And we are talking to Mrs. Crystal Singleton about her husband and his mental health challenges of being diagnosed with dementia. So starting from there, I want to talk about what was his progression like from being diagnosed in 2008 up until now.
Yeah.
My husband, there's stages to dementia. There's 5, 7 different stages of dementia. When my husband was diagnosed in 2008, my husband was walking, talking, still driving. He was still doing that, but full of fear, full of anxiety, full of depression, full of just really a schizophrenic personality. It gives that impression that he's a schizophrenic, but he had dementia.
Describe that schizophrenic personality for me. Let's describe
schizophrenic personality, paranoia, thinking people are trying to hurt you and that kind of stuff. And so my husband had what you call sundown. That's part of dementia. It's where he's sleeping all day on and off, but he's up all night, peeping out the window. Now I'm sleeping.
Sure.
I wasn't even aware he was doing that, you know, because I'm sleeping, because I'm getting up at 5 o'clock, leaving the house at 6 to be at work at 6:30, you know, that kind of thing. So I wasn't aware in the early stages that that was going on with him. You know, by, you know, 2009 and 10, he was full of anger at this point, angry because, you know, he can't work, you know, because of his can't return back to work, because they would send him kids and he would give them a basketball to go play. He couldn't, you know, he couldn't get the reports together. As a teacher, you have reports, you have to do your lesson plan. He just couldn't fulfill the requirements. And so so by 2008 of May, that was his last. So by 2009 and 10, he's angry. He wants so bad for his son to see him work. You know, he's going through that stage. He's fearful. You know, he's thinking, his paranoia was to the point where he's thinking, you know, whenever I go out, I'm going out to see someone, you know, and just he's thinking his cousin that he's close to, you know, he's telling me he wants to buy a gun, you know, and he's thinking I've hired people to kill him. And so he's going through all this stuff. And so once we get to that place, then by, you know, 2015 of October, he's full blown now. He's, you know, full blown, you know. I remember one Sunday getting up and at this point, I'm dressing him because he's not able to dress himself. He's still able to go take a shower by himself, but it's like I'm dressing him his clothes, you know, helping him a lot at this point. But I remember one Sunday morning and I said to him, I said, Charles, you know, don't step. We have a little poodle. And I said, he was in his socks. And I said, don't step in there. You're going to step in Pork Chop's urine and your socks is going to get wet and I have to change them and wipe your feet and do all of that again. And so I don't know what went on in his head, but he got angry and I'm ironing my clothes. I done got Caleb dressed. Caleb is, you know, only, at this point, Caleb is only 7 years old. I done got his clothes ready for church and I'm ironing my clothes and he got so mad and he went to go hit me in the face and I just backed up and he started choking me. And I just came real still, you know, just very calm, very still, because with dementia patient, it's always important to change their mind. So if
Okay.
their mind is focused on
Okay.
something, it's to distract them and put it on something else. Because 30 minutes later, they don't even remember what they've done.
Right.
And so, and at this point, Caleb witnessed that,
Okay.
and so on a Sunday morning, I had to call the police.
Mhm.
They were like, well, we're going to take him to the hospital, try to get him on different medication, that kind of thing. And at that point, they end up transporting him to Charleston MUSC. They
Okay.
put him in the psych ward.
Okay.
And normally they keep you for seven days. They kept him for 2 months. And they tried different medications, and they told me, they said, you know what, we don't suggest him coming home because we can't convince him that there's not a man in your closet and he's there to protect you. He says
Okay.
there's a man in our closet, he's there to
Okay.
protect me and to harm him.
Ah.
And he said we can't convince him any different. So we suggest that he goes to a facility. So they sent him to McClellanville, which was 2 hours away. So 3 days a week, I'm driving 2 hours one way, 2 hours back with a 7-year-old. I have to drop off to school so that it was a process, but he was still able to dress himself, but he just didn't remember. It's like he 30 minutes later, he didn't remember what happened before.
Okay.
So they put him in a room by himself because he was with other men in the house or in the facility that had mental issues too, but they could remember,
Okay.
and but they had mental issues. And so that was hard, and when I went there to visit, he tried to bust out the car window, turn over the car. He was very, very strong.
Okay.
It doesn't matter if they're a little man, a big man, a little woman, a big woman. If
Right.
they have that component of combatantness, they can be very strong.
Sure.
Very strong.
Sure.
So that was the process from 2008 to 2015.
Mhm.
And then we tried to bring him back home, but then, we brought him back home, and then he tried to, anybody that maybe their voice or yell that wasn't calm, it would just irritate him. And then that means you were going to have to contend with him possibly trying to beat you up, and so it happened with his sister. So
Okay.
he's back in the hospital again. And so so they got him to, another facility, got him to Utahville. And so I would go up there 3 days a week. Finally got Alzheimer's, hospice to go in to help him because he just didn't remember to take a bath or anything. And I could only get there 3 days a week. And that was an hour and a half away. So that was around 2016. And then he was in 3 other places. He was in Ridgeland Nursing Home for rehabilitation. He beat up 2 men, said one of them had a gun. So it's just that kind of paranoia. So we went through many facilities, and I thought, okay, I'm going to have to move to a whole nother state because I didn't want him that far away from me. And I didn't want him in what you would call an institution for the mentally insane, because those men were sometimes criminals, and sometimes they had memory and stuff like that. And that wasn't Charles's situation. He was combatant, but he had dementia. And so he would have been defenseless in many situations. So, and even though he was in with medication, from 2013, when I finally realized the situation, up until this point, it was like the medicine just wasn't working for him. So now we don't give him any medication because once he gets to a certain stage, the medicine don't work anyway.
Okay.
Okay.
So present day, is he mobile? Is he able to walk? Is he?
No, today my husband is bedridden and he's on a feeding tube. So he don't eat anything by mouth. He can't walk. But God is awesome. I say that because there's times where I went in his room and he's done sit up by himself. So I had to put rails on the bed. During the pandemic, it was like he was sitting up by himself. A couple of times I find him on the floor because he's done tried to stand up.
Okay.
and that kind of thing. So now, I have rails. They in the hospital, they don't tend to like you to have rails around the bed. But we're in my own personal home facility. So, I do what works for my husband
Your situation.
and to
Right.
protect him.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha.
what kind of care or team does he need at this point? Is there like social workers coming in or techs coming in to help you with him? And if so, how did you find out about those resources?
Well, my husband is at the stage of what we would call a full skill care. He typically would be in a nursing home
Okay.
for the kind of care he needs. I went back to school in right before the pandemic of January to PCL to become a CNA certified to take care of him at the level he needed. And
Oh,
so the
wow.
people that come in my home, I train, so, I train them based on what I've learned in class and school or whatever. And
Okay.
so um, we have nurses come in once a week, home health nurse come in once a week to check. And so I went back to school because I needed to be able to communicate. What I've learned is in every area of life, there is, you have to learn how to communicate on that level.
Mhm.
And so I went back to learn how to communicate with the doctors and the nurses. You
Mhm.
know, I, once a month, a nurse practitioner comes in.
Mhm.
Once a month, a doctor calls me. I have to order all his feeding tube. Like today, like yesterday, one of the workers, you know, miss, punched the wrong knob to his feeding tube. And
Okay.
I told her, I said, go on home, we'll figure it out, tomorrow. We'll just let it run the way it's running. In the morning, I know we have a doctor's appointment.
Mhm.
So I got up as I'm traveling, taking him to the doctor with the transportation. I called and said, hey, this is what we got going on with the machine. I ended up figuring it out myself by
Mhm.
calling the 1-800 number doing a troubleshooting. So
Mhm.
I had to learn how to work the machines that you
Okay.
see in the hospitals,
Sure.
because of the feeding tube, transportation. I have to schedule all his transportation. I do all his doctor's appointments, even though we have people come in and out. So I actually, have a team of people. I have
Mhm.
a lady come in the morning from 8 to 11. I have another lady come from 4 to 8 based
Okay.
on my schedule. I have a calendar. Um, I'll show you here. I
Okay.
just have many calendars. I
Sure.
calendar where I write down all the scheduling,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Okay.
I just tell them, if you have to be off from work, just let me know and
Let
we'll
you
work
know.
it around. I do the appointments around everybody, and so everybody just let me know what they got to do.
Mhm.
And then and that's what we do. Typically, every weekend, I'm the only staff.
Mhm.
Um, I had a staff coming in from 8 to 1 on Saturday, um, but that's kind of hard to fill.
Okay.
People want their weekends, and
Sure.
and
Sure.
and and we're, I mean, all over the world, we're in a situation where a lot of people just don't want to work. So,
Right.
and I've just partnered up with transportation so that my husband would always have transportation to his appointments. Because a
Mhm.
couple of times I had to transport him in my
Yourself.
vehicle. I have an Odyssey, so but still with that van, it that means I had to take the lift and the wheelchair. So, you know, um, I would be misleading if I said I did it by myself. And
Right.
and
Okay.
I have a team, and I've partnered up with people. And then they have the Alzheimer's support group.
Okay.
In the early stages when my husband was walking, I
Mhm.
would partnered up with Alzheimer's support group. So
Mhm.
on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, he would
Mhm.
go to a church for 4 or 5 hours, which would give me a break you
Okay.
know. And so they have that all over. It doesn't matter what state you're in. You can find the Alzheimer's organization, and they have like where they take care of your loved ones for that 4 or 5 hours.
Okay.
And then they have like on Wednesday, I would take him to the church, and then they would do games or whatever with them and feed them or whatever. And then I could go and be a part of a support group of other people who were taking care of their loved ones, caregivers, and I would learn from them, you know, and they would tell me their experience, like I was talking about earlier. If we had a roadmap, but the roadmap is the person who went before you.
Okay.
That's your
Okay.
roadmap.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
And
it's
I'm
go
sorry.
ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I apologize because we're trying to stick on a schedule, and so I've got to take us to another break. But one of the things that I just wanted to say really quickly, Crystal, is that I think that's absolutely amazing that
Mm,
you were willing to go back to school and become a CNA for the
right.
specific purpose, not of actually going
Right.
out and getting a job as a CNA, but to
Right.
be able to take care of your loved one
Sure.
Very
Yeah.
at home.
cool.
I think that's absolutely amazing, an amazing
Absolutely.
testament to the level of love and care
Hmm.
that you're giving to your home and to your family and to your husband. And actually, when we come back from break, that's I think what we're going to get into is talk about the family dynamic a little bit
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
kind of how these challenges have affected your family dynamics. So this is the Kingdom Mandate podcast. I'm Pastor Derek Turner,
I'm Pastor Reggie Davis.
And I'm Minister Andrea Cummings.
and we are going to take a word from our sponsors, and we will be right back with you. So,
I like
Wonderful,
it. I
Crystal.
like it. Yeah.
the
Like,
editing on this one is going to be simple.
oh yeah. Yeah. Right.
Wonderful, Crystal.
Right there.
Yeah,
Yeah. This is really
yeah.
good information. This is
That's
really good.
yeah. That's absolutely amazing. Uh,
Yeah.
the just the amount of, and if we, I think if we as a community, we as a society,
Right.
took the posture of learning
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
order to understand the things that we don't understand,
Mhm.
Right.
be it caring for a loved one, or
Hmm.
just simply handling matters of disagreement with our brothers and with our sisters.
Right.
um that if we actually took the posture of being able to learn, I think that speaks volumes.
This
It
speaks
does.
volume.
I'm going to have to provide care. Let me go to school and find out how.
How to do
that's
it. Right.
Yes.
that's amazing, Crystal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's amazing also that, from what I'm gathering, you're able to, you're really good at management right now.
Mhm.
Mm,
Because not only do you manage your personal time, but you manage family time, you manage the time of the workers that come in and out, and at the end of the day, you're still able to find time to give God His time.
Mhm.
mm.
So that's a
Raising a
testament.
son, yeah.
Yeah, and raise a son in and of itself. You're able, God really gets the glory from that because, you know, I I I can't say I know, because I'm not there, but
No
I
doubt.
can from what you're saying, that's a lot. So, those of us, who aren't taking on that type of situation, man, we really should really be above and beyond with giving God praise and being able to do more. Like Derek said, being able to, go and learn something, right?
Yes.
Because every day, like you and I, we talked, Crystal, prior to, we talked about the only thing you really have some form of control over is time, how you
Mhm.
manage your time.
Yes.
And if you don't manage that time, you'll look back and say, "Man, where did the time go?" I just missed
Yes.
out on some opportunities to better
Yes.
myself. And I think
Yes.
the Most High wants all of us to better ourselves. Every
Yes.
chance we get to better ourselves because it gets us closer to uh, understanding the Most High and
Yes.
His love for us. And so I
Mm,
commend you because you didn't complain. Not one time have you
No.
complained
Oh,
about
listen.
Mm-mm.
what you did. You've
Yeah.
not one time complained. Think about people
No.
that complain because they may be short on money or something, or they
Yeah.
got a flat tire on the car, and whatever. So they complain about smaller things that come on, you
Yes.
can fix it, right?
yeah.
You can
And,
fix
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
and you don't wear
Yeah.
that on your countenance either, because I mean, I met you, teaching the class
Sure.
and everything else. And
Right.
you talk about, you and I, just not knowing each other from a can of paint, and we still haven't actually ever met in person. But
Yes.
unless you actually, if not only for the fact that you are telling us this story, would
Right.
I know this about you?
Right.
Yes.
Because you don't strike the naked eye as somebody who's just bogged down and worn down by their
There's
personal
no
circumstances.
Right.
You don't seem stressed about it. You just seem like you just have the faith, and you know where your strength is coming from.
There
Yeah.
you go.
Well,
And I see that.
I have to say that God graced us to do certain things.
Mhm.
Sure.
And so in 2017, I've been graced to do it.
Sure.
It's not by my power or my might, but by the Holy Spirit. It's in 2017, I heard God say, because I threw my hands up, because
Okay.
you all have to get into the part of the dynamics of relatives
Yeah.
and their
Yeah.
component and what part they play, especially when you're a part of the type of family my husband, they were so their parents intertwined them. And
Mhm.
so even the part of the legal part of in 2008, when they found out my husband had dementia, his brother and sister took power attorney over my husband, unknowing to me.
Wow.
So it's
Wow.
and having heirs property entangled with that.
Mhm.
So when you look at that whole picture, it's like God in 2017, because I've had to get lawyers and all that stuff to untangle the web that they weaved, just so I can take care of my husband
Wow.
Okay.
legally,
Wow.
you know.
Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so some parents, some people need to know that, you need to have power attorney, or guardian ad litem over your loved one, whether they be your parents, whether it be your children, because
Mhm.
some people I met, their child had dementia,
Wow.
and so, but they are with this legal system, you can't make no decision if they are adult for them, because you have the Privacy Act and all of that. And so you have to get, power attorney, or you have to get a guardian ad litem so you can make decisions. People need wills, people need things in place
Right.
before they get to a place where they can't make a decision like my husband, or they can't
Okay.
sign a paper,
And
and
you're bringing that out because that
That's
is a
good. Yeah.
side that people don't they don't
Yes.
think of, that legal side of the house, because that has to be addressed, because
Yeah.
that in
and believe it
itself.
or not, the judge, one judge wouldn't do it because of the legal side.
Right.
They
Right.
She wouldn't give it to
He
me.
wouldn't even
So I
okay.
couldn't even make decisions, even though I was taking care of my husband. They had power attorney. And
Wow.
they would come in my house and harass me. They
Wow.
love me today.
Right. Yeah, right. Yeah,
but
sure. Sure.
in the beginning, when it was money and land involved, it was
There
another
you
story.
go. It's a
And
whole
I
nother.
had to make a decision
Mm.
to give it all up. I gave it all up.
I get it. I get it.
I told him, you can buy me out, or we have to sell it, but I don't want to have anything to do with it. You don't want me to have it.
Sure.
You think my husband's gonna die soon.
Mhm.
And in 2017, I said, Lord, and I told them, I said, you all come to court. If you tell the judge why you want to hold power attorney over my husband, I will walk away, and I will let you have him. I'll let you have everything, let you and the day that I went to court, they didn't even show up. Their lawyer said that they wasn't coming and they weren't coming. And so I went into court with my lawyer. My lawyer told me that morning. And I told him, I said, you know what? I haven't ate. I'm gonna go to McDonald's since
Mhm.
they have all these cases before me. When I came back, the judge signed off for me having garden and lighting. So, it's just like that. And so, but I heard the Lord in 2017 before I went into the court. He said,
Okay.
Crystal, because I said, God, I'm tired. I'm done. You know, and he said, Crystal, your assignment is not done. Take
Wow.
care of your husband and son.
Wow. Man.
So when you hear from the Lord,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you just run your race
You got
and
to run your
knowing that
race.
Yes.
he's graced you to do
And
what you do. So it's not my power or my might. It's that
Right.
I heard from the Lord and I'm just being obedient to what I heard. I believed him when he said it. And
and
so,
because
and
he's
this,
and because
yeah,
he said it, I've learned to get to a place where God, if I'm going to be obedient to this thing that you told me to do, you've got to
He's gonna
protect me and you've
provide.
got to cover me while I'm doing it.
And
Yeah.
he's gonna provide you exactly what you need.
And
That's it.
some
Exactly.
things you hear in your spirit and some things you hear in your heart. But
Right.
I heard him just like I'm talking to you all. I heard the
There you
voice.
go.
And it
Hmm.
was like, well, let me run. And so, and I've been running, and he's
Sure,
been
sure,
covering me. He's
sure,
been covering me mentally,
sure.
spiritually, and emotionally. And like I shared with you earlier, I could probably really focus in on me more, you
Mhm,
know,
mhm.
but really, really just pamper me way out there. But God gives me break. Like I just came back from Kentucky, a 4-day.
Mhm.
I jumped on the plane. I hired, my staff
Hey,
to stay overnight, and I took 4 days and went home, to
Right,
mhm.
Kentucky. But
right.
I'm a worker. When I got home, I found people to help.
There you go. I like that. I
Yeah.
like that.
you
Hey,
know,
let's get back. Let's get back into what we're and just keep the conversation going because
Right.
I mean we've got to
yeah,
find a way to use everything.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
like there are no cutouts tonight.
Right.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So let's
Yeah.
yeah.
I like
yeah,
it.
Yes. Yeah,
yeah.
let's hop back in and
Okay.
I'm going to reset the timer
Okay.
Okay.
and we're back on. Andrew, you want to take it or you want me to bring it in?
You can bring it on in.
Okay. All right. So we're back on the Kingdom Mandate podcast and I'm Pastor Derek Turner
Yes, I'm Pastor Reggie Davis.
And I'm Minister Andrea Cummings.
and we are talking with Crystal Singleton here and who has been so gracious to share her story
Hmm.
with us with regard to us bringing awareness to mental health issues. And so, Andrew, I'm gonna give you the floor back, and let's just keep the conversation going.
Hmm.
Yes.
And one question that I wanted to ask you, Crystal, we kind of touched on it a little bit, but you said that you have a son. So I wanted
Yes.
you to kind of talk to us about the family dynamics and what are some of those challenges that you have with your husband having dementia and raising your son?
Well, Caleb, the year my husband was diagnosed was the year Caleb was born. So in the first 4 years, it 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 it, it was normal for our son because they were like at the same age at the same time. But then my son started growing to be 5, 6, 7, and he wanted to just ride his bicycle, but his dad was paranoid. And so he could even ride his bicycle on the sidewalk. And so, I remember telling my son one day he had a bicycle that his uncle brought him for Christmas, and he was on the sidewalk, and his dad just took him up, and I thought his dad was going to really hurt him, just because he was afraid that someone would steal him. He was always afraid someone was going to steal Caleb, or Caleb was going to get hit by a car, even though he was on the
Mm,
sidewalk. And I
Hmm.
remember telling my son, I said, Caleb, I said, we are not like other people.
Hmm.
I said, because he didn't understand why he couldn't ride his bicycle on the sidewalk. I said,
Okay.
you have to remember, we are different,
Hmm.
and we're not like other people. I said, but don't worry, you'll get to ride someday. Just,
Right. Right.
just
mhm.
come in the house. You
Yeah.
know, Daddy is afraid, and he don't want you to ride. So there was a lot of things that
Mhm.
our son was probably isolated, where other
Sure.
kids were just free,
Sure. How
and
how did he handle that when you told him that you're different and someday you'll be able to write? How did he take that?
well, he just came in because I mean, my husband took him up real hard,
Okay.
and he was
Yeah.
like only 5 or 6, and I was
Mm.
afraid. It was like, Caleb, and Caleb later, like now, tells me, he says, "Mom, you know what? I was afraid of you," and and I'm like,
Yeah. Yeah.
his dad was wonderful, but I,
Look at that. Wow.
and he was like, "Oh, I'm like my dad. My dad is wonderful." Because his dad
Okay.
was so close. I would
Okay.
be at home, and I would be cooking because I had to do his breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and and I was managing the house, you know, um, ever since 2012, because I was home every day except for Thursday and Friday in 2012. At 2014, I came home full time.
Okay.
So I was always, and I remember telling God, I said, you know what? I wish I could just go out with them. So they would go to the playground, they would
Mhm.
do everything together. But I had to stay home because I had to make sure he got his medicine on time, make sure food was cooked. I had to make sure everything was running smoothly so we could have a peaceful day, you know, because
Mhm.
anything was off, it could
Sure.
trigger him. I
Sure.
remember Caleb had to go back to school January. You know, you have your Christmas break
Mhm.
and then they go back in January. Well, I
Mhm.
realized Caleb needed shoestrings for his shoes. And I said, okay, they're eating dinner at the table. And I told him and Charles, I said, I'm gonna run to the Dollar General store right across the bridge, grab some shoestrings for tomorrow. It's late, you know. And next thing I know, I got a phone call from my sister-in-law. And she says, well, Charles called me because he's upset and blah, blah, blah. And what is he talking about? And I said, I don't know. When I left, they were eating dinner. I just went to go get shoestrings. But he would tell them that I would leave. He don't know where I'm gone, and I stay gone, and I'm going with the men around the corner, and
Mm.
Wow.
he just had all this
Mm.
paranoia. So it was
Sure.
just always that going on. So we were, you know, I guess I was naive to a certain extent, not knowing the level of
Mhm.
his mental uh, decline when it
Okay.
came to that. Because I remember laying on the couch during that time. I had fell asleep, laid on the couch, and I woke up and he was standing over me with a baseball bat, getting ready to hit me in the head.
Mm.
He didn't know who I was.
Mhm.
And so I yelled out his name and he just started cussing because I shocked him. And
Okay.
so that was the day that I took all the baseball bats out of the house and
Sure.
asked the neighbors. They were Caleb's baseball bats from playing.
Mhm.
His cousin gave it to him. But, you know, so Caleb, you know, there were situations where I had to remove all his
Mhm.
baseball bats, you know, and I gave them to the neighbor and I said, I'll come back and get them, you know, when things
Mhm.
calm down,
Mhm.
you know. So a lot of things, but if you don't know, you don't know. So in a child's situation, he only knows what you teach him and what you raise him. So he didn't really miss certain things because he never really was allowed to do it in the
To do
first
it.
place. You kind of
Okay.
stop it in the first place so it won't be trauma to him. So
Mhm.
he thinks his dad is great. You know,
Good. That's good.
you know,
That's
so
good.
it's
Yeah.
mom that
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
he's hard on.
Yeah. Yeah. I get it. I get it. Okay. All
Yeah.
right.
Actually, that
So now.
I can attest to that a little bit. You know, just even in my own experience with my two children, because they've never been trick or treating in their lives.
Yeah.
And when Halloween comes around every year, there's never a question of why can't we buy a costume and why can't we go get candy, and that never happens because they've never had
They
that,
never experienced
They
it.
Yeah.
never experienced
never
it. Right.
experienced it, so
Yeah.
they never even it doesn't even occur as a thought
Right.
Yeah.
to do.
Yeah.
Now
Yeah.
here's a question, Crystal. When Charles was standing over you with baseball bat, right? Now I know you had
Mhm.
mentioned at one point, you all were getting ready on a particular Sunday. I think back in 2008, he choked you, right? But then you
Mhm.
said 2017. I want to say that's when he was standing over you with a baseball bat, correct?
Um, in 2017, he was in different facilities off and
Okay.
on. So this was like in 2015. All these
Okay.
major events happened in 2015. In
Okay.
October of 2015 was when he choked me, but in the early part of the year it was the baseball bat. So there was different events that were
Yeah.
taking place, but
Mm.
you know, some people get it quickly and some people
Hmm.
get it slowly.
Okay.
And so I didn't necessarily, it was like when 2015 happened, I
Mhm.
kept trying to fix the situation, you know,
Okay.
try to, you know, it's
Kind of.
like, okay, you know,
Yeah, I
because
get that.
it's a couple of times I've had to call the police
Sure.
on him, because one time, you know, he had a knife, and so I had to get rid of all the knives.
I get
No
that.
one told me not to have sharp stuff in the
Sure.
house until after it happened.
Okay,
And so even the support group
Mhm.
said, you know, you can't stay in that situation. And I'm thinking, well, it's nothing wrong. What I'm gonna do, you know,
Right, what are you
that
gonna
kind
do?
of
Right.
thing.
So,
Yeah.
okay, so here's the question then for those that are listening. For you, Crystal, what was the turning point for you where you said, you know what, okay, I got to deal with this, you know, not only with myself, but I've got to deal with my husband, I got to deal with my son. Uh, but I've got to really, really make a change, because otherwise, I can only imagine if you don't make that change, if you don't turn that corner, it'll just swallow
Right.
you up. It'll consume you, right? So,
Yes.
what year do you think you said, okay, I've got to do something, and I've got to do it right now, because this is real, and I got to get some form of control of you know what's going on.
To tell you the truth, Pastor Reggie, it's 2015, the doctors made the decision for me.
Okay.
And I was still trying to figure out how to bring him back, because
Okay.
what I knew and what I know today is that, or what I believe, and I don't know how much of what I've just told myself, but I believe that no one could. He's been in many facilities, and every facility I went to, and it's been recorded in the documentary, is that no one could really take care of him but me.
Gotcha.
But he wasn't going to even let me take care of him in the early stage. So it was the doctors who said, you're not going to be able to take care of him because he thinks you're the problem.
The problem.
Okay.
I was his enemy. I wasn't his friend. And even today, he's bedridden, and he hit me with his legs. He can't move his hands, and none. His hands done had surgery. We just and you know, they were conformed. I just had surgery to have them open so we can clean them. He takes his knees and hit me, the workers, and all of that.
What?
And you know, when he would do that, he would catch me in my stomach and my gut. And I said, Charles, who am I? I said, am I Crystal? And he would say, yes. I said, am I your wife? He would say, yes. I said, then why you do that?
Sure.
And then sometimes I found out that dementia patient or Charles don't like water. They don't like water. So I take the syringe and I squirt him with water. Every time you kick me in the stomach, I'm gonna squirt you with water. And he said, why you do that? I said, because you kicked me in my stomach.
Right.
So you learn to work with them. But no matter what, I'm gonna clean you up.
Sure.
I'm gonna love you. I'm gonna take care of you, because you're not always like that, you know. And so, but in a nursing home or facilities, staff don't have that compassion and love for you. And so when last year, when I went for 2 weeks to take a respite, a break, in the first 5 days, my husband was full of wounds. They didn't take care of him. And they called me. They had to send him to wound care because they weren't going to tolerate that. He was combating.
I get it. Okay.
So, but I knew that I was the one that God called to take care of him. So even when you were telling me months back, you were like, well, Crystal, you know, he don't have to be like that. You know, you can pray. I'm like, no, we all right. he can remain. Jesus told John to remain. Charles can remain, you know. So,
I get it.
He's good. And he's loved on all the time.
Yeah, sure.
He can remain. For the safety of all that is involved.
For the safety of everybody involved.
Everybody involved.
Everybody.
Love it. Love it. Love it.
Like that.
Yeah, even the workers, even the nurses.
Sure.
He don't have no respect for person.
Equal opportunity.
I was about to say equal opportunity.
But Charles.
Crystal, so does your son have any dealings with your husband as far as helping you out with your dad in his care?
He you know, during the pandemic, I could not get rails. They couldn't order rails. It was hard getting certain supplies in. So because he had tried to get up, he fell on the floor. My son stayed up with my husband through the night so I could sleep. He
Wow.
did that.
Wow.
He did that multiple nights, back to back to back to back, so that I could get sleep because he knew I was working. Because during the pandemic, we went through multiple staff, during that time, one time my husband got pandemic, he didn't have the signs, and one of the staff didn't want to take a test. She was working at Paris Island. And I said, well, then you know what? I can't use you if you're not willing to go take the test to see if you're the one who gave it to him. All of us took tests, we don't have it.
Wow,
So my son stayed up, and when I was here in the middle of the night by myself, I said, okay, Caleb, you got to help me lift him up. Caleb, you got to help me get him off the floor because he'd be on the floor. We got to help. And Charles was like 189 pounds, 200 pounds. And so my young son at the time, like 12, he's 13 now, helping me get him off the floor. We're trying to figure out how to get him back in the beds. And a couple of times I've had to call 911 and say, you know what, Caleb, we ain't gonna be able to do this one. We're gonna have to call 911, and let them do it. But a couple of times, and I called, and he would say, Mom, where's your workers at? And I said, Caleb, it's in the midnight hour. Daddy need us right now. And we got to do what we got to do right now.
Right now.
And so, but he loves his dad, and so he'll come in and help, and he loves me. He gives me a hard time, but he loves me. He wants me to eat healthy. He wants me to be a vegetarian like he is, and all that stuff. So
I get it. And so now but Caleb is he's an honor roll student, right? And does he play what instrument does he play?
Caleb plays several instruments. He can play some piano. Caleb plays the trumpet real good. He takes lessons for that. He plays the mellophone for the high school band, even though he's in 8th grade. He plays the French horn. He plays the trombone. He plays the soprano trombone, and so he plays several instruments. He's brass instruments.
Gotcha.
And so his dad played the brass instrument, one of the brass instruments. So he always reminded me, Mom, Dad played the brass instrument. You didn't play no instrument, Mama. So he is, and this is the second quarter, and the lowest grade he has is a 95.
Wow.
And I had a teacher call me 2 days ago, and his ELA teacher, and she says, you know what, I normally don't make this phone call. She says, but I'm glad to tell you, Caleb is such an awesome student in my class. And she just called to tell me that. So I was like, thank you, and he's the president of a junior honor society. He's the he shares president with another student of the the school president for his son. He does multiple things, and God has allowed him to. He told me the other day, he says, Mom, he's in a play coming up on the 3rd of December. He's in the Gullah Kinfolk Christmas play at USCB. He says, Mom, I got too much on my plate. I don't have time to do the play, but I need to say I got to do the play, and he says, Mom, you know what? You think A's come out of the sky? I have to work for those A's. I don't have time for this play. Won't you tell Anita? And I said, you tell Anita. He said, okay. So he got Anita on the phone, and Anita said, you're 13 years old. You don't make decisions for yourself. I'm making them for you, and don't bother your mother.
Right. Wow.
So he's funny.
13. Wow.
He's funny. He's funny. He's a joy. I love taking care of him. I love taking care of my husband because, my husband don't remember my name now. And because of my consistency, he remembers my face because he just stares at me. And so I asked him every morning, I said, Charles, what's my name? And one time he said, Big Time. So he calls me different names, and he calls me, and I said, no, Crystal, am I your wife? He said, and he'll shake his head, yes. And
Yeah.
so one morning he said my name. He said Crystal, and I just started rejoicing.
There you
And
go.
I said,
Nice.
Caleb, your
Yeah.
daddy called
Yeah.
my name. He said,
Yeah.
Mama, he should call your name. You tell him every morning. So, you know, my husband used to love dancing, and he still moves around in the bed. So I
Okay.
dance for him. So we have fun as a family.
That's
You know,
good.
every family has its own dynamics. You
Yeah.
know, you have to
Yeah.
find what works for your family.
Right.
And
Right.
Right.
so, you know, I played the gospel music at night. I put on TBN.
Mhm.
I dance for him. You know,
I like it.
because my husband was a man who loved dancing, you know, and
Okay.
so I dance for him, you know, and he just looks and he smiles. And so
Yeah.
that's good enough for me at the end of the day,
Sure.
you know.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like
Great.
it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
So you guys have a documentary that is being made in honor of your husband. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, they started filming us about 9 years ago. Caleb was about 4, and it actually, I met a group of people who came down to film Bella and the Culture at my church I was at. And so I told them about my sister-in-law, who is a performer, Aunt Pearlie Sue, Anita Prater. And so in telling them about her, she told them about my husband. And so when they met my husband and interviewed him a few times, because they came from Kenya College out of Ohio, they thought his story was worth telling. So they,
Okay.
in return, went back to Kenya College where they were teaching, they were professors,
Mhm.
and they told Chris Davis, who was one of the professors that was teaching film, about Charles. And they brought him back down the next summer, and he took on the project. And from there he followed us around. We've been to Chicago
Mhm.
multiple times, to Nashville, Kentucky, Philadelphia. Chris has traveled to New York. He's traveled to Florida because we have a daughter in New
Okay.
York. My husband has a daughter, and
Mhm.
some people say stepkids, but she's just my daughter, and she's only
Sure.
6 years younger than me. So,
Sure.
but
okay.
she's just
Sure.
my daughter, and we have 2
Sure.
grandkids,
Mhm.
and so he went there to interview her, and they've been following us around for the last 9 years, talking about the dynamics of being living with dementia,
Mhm.
and how love, faith, family,
Mhm.
um, plays a part in all of that.
Wow. Wow.
Wow.
Awesome.
Wow.
So how are the viewers, if they want to support that documentary, how are they able to support you guys in that effort?
Well, the documentary will be out in 2022 of spring. So the way
Okay.
to support it is to watch it, to
There
look
you go.
when it comes on Hulu, when it comes on
Sure.
Netflix, punch it,
Mhm.
and watch it, and you'll be inspired. I've sent trailers out to people and Caleb actually do the narrating of a lot of
Nice.
Wow.
when he was
Wow.
little. When he
Nice.
was little, he do a lot of the narrating of a lot of it, and
Mhm.
just watch it.
Okay.
The beginning, like the beginning of the summer, I contacted Chris because it had been about 9 years.
Mhm.
And I said, Chris, hey, when is it coming out? And Chris said, because we all hit bumps in life,
Sure.
we go
Sure.
through divorces, go through different things that will
Sure.
slow us up in our process. And
Mhm.
and Chris says, you know what, we need about 30,000 to finish. And I said, okay. And so our anniversary, me and my husband's anniversary is June 3rd. So I hired a film person to record our anniversary, and to do a little snippet so I could put it out so people could donate to the South Documentary Fund, which is
Mhm.
in North Carolina, which is where the film goes under. And I did that, and just out of faith, and so I put that out on Facebook, and
Mhm.
and I think it ended up raising about $900, but we need 30,000. And
Mhm.
Chris said, "Well, it's a start," And I said, "Cool. Well, in the midst of helping my nephew to get a contract to do t-shirts for the school that Caleb goes to, my sister-in-law, my two sister-in-law was there celebrating one of them's birthday. So I went over to sit with them to have breakfast after I met with him and the other lady. And my sister-in-law saw Ron, which is the director, president of the film festival in Beaufort. And so she introduced me to him. She mentioned about my husband in the documentary. I took their card. He said, send me an email. I sent him an email, sent it to Chris, the director. And he started emailing me, asking me questions. And so now he's funding the rest of the money.
Wow.
And so the film, he let me know about a couple of weeks ago that it'll be completed spring of 2022. So at this point, I didn't have to sell my land, but I was willing to do that. I put my land up for sale, out of faith, wanting it to come to pass, because I wanted my husband's story told. It started out, 9 years ago, it started out me wanting to retain his memory for Caleb. But God has did much more. He put Chris and other people in our lives that, came from other states. God did it, and now it's going to be a documentary. Not everyone gets to tell their story in that manner, but and to have people to partner up with you, and like I said, we've traveled the world, Chicago, everywhere, just filming. Wherever we went, Chris followed. I would just say, hey, Chris, we're going to be here. Chris says, I'll meet you there, and he would be there,
So Crystal, tell us real quick, what's the name of the documentary?
It's called Contender. He was bouncing between Contenders and Contender. Contender is CA, it's a Gullah name. So instead of just ER, it's AH on the end, because he wants to talk about the Gullah culture, which is the culture my husband came from here in Beaufort, South Carolina.
Okay. And if you all if you feel led to support the documentary series, what we'll do is we'll put a link in the description box
where they can donate.
Absolutely.
Yeah, to the southdocumentary.com. Yeah, they can still donate, because that is a documentary in North Carolina, and they have other films and stuff that comes out, and so often than not, African American films are not supported at a high level when it's just local stories, such as but those stories are worthy to be told because it can give hope to people. I've shared the bits and pieces with people, and they walk away with tears, and I'm just like, I've lived it, but to see the effect it has on people, because dementia is, like I said, 30 million people in the US are being affected by it every year. 30 million is not just a little number, every year.
Say that again, Crystal, for those listening. Say how many people are affected by this?
3 million US cases per year. Per year.
Okay.
3 million.
3
and
million.
those are reported cases, 3 million US. Because remember, Charles, it wasn't until 2008 that I knew something was wrong. But Charles told me that he was losing his memory shortly after the car wreck. So I found out that people can have an onset with one injury. They can have an onset dementia. And you don't have to be 80 years old or 70 years old. You can be in your 50s. You can be in your 40s. You can have brain trauma that will cause mental health.
Okay. Wow.
And so a lot of the homeless people are suffering from mental health. That's why they're homeless, you know, in a lot of cases. So
Okay.
mental health is affects a lot of people in different ways.
Right. But Crystal, we just want to let you know that we're glad and happy that you decided to join us today and talk
Mhm.
about this because here at Kingdom Mandate Ministries, we think and believe that ministry has to be more than just, us talking about a thing, but we actually have to do something about what we're talking about, provide the resources, provide the facts, the data, and give people a better understanding, give them hope, and provide the necessary resources to go to the next step without being, having that element of fear or worry or stress, trying to figure out how to do it on your own, because you don't have to do it on your own, but
Oh,
you do need people around you who know, and they're willing to be patient with you and help you through that process. So,
yes,
we definitely want to thank you for taking this time out to share
Absolutely.
your story with us,
Absolutely.
because
yes,
many people need to hear it. Many people need to know about it, and we're going to do our level best to promote not only the documentary, but those who are needing help when it comes to mental health. So, we're definitely, we have you back 100%. And this is
yes,
what we're going to do. This is our mission, to promote this message and promote the message of the kingdom, and everything that the kingdom provides. So definitely,
yes,
Chris, we want to,
Mm.
thank you for this time.
yes.
For
Thank you.
those
You're
of you
welcome.
who are watching this channel for the first time, if you enjoyed this content, if you found it useful, if you found some kind of value in it, we would love for you to become a subscriber by clicking the subscribe button in the right hand corner of your screen. If you feel led to donate to Kingdom Mandate Ministries, we do have a mental health awareness initiative,
Mhm.
and you can go to www.kingdommandateministries.com and click donate, and walk through the process. It's very, very easy. We really, really appreciate your donations.
Yep,
Thank you for sharing, Crystal.
You're
It was a
welcome.
very touching story. Thank you.
absolutely.
You're
Yes,
welcome.
yes. This is the Kingdom Mandate Podcast. I'm Pastor Derek Turner
I'm Pastor Reggie Davis.
And I'm Minister Andrea Cummings.
and Mrs. Crystal Singleton. Thank you so much again
Thank
for
you.
spending some time with us today.
You're welcome.
And until next time, you all be blessed
Absolutely.
Yes.
I like it.
and
Um,
cut.
I like
yes.
it. I like it. I like it. That was good.